Hi peeps, Tersse back on Ox once again, and I'm here talking again about the Malaysian aircraft flight 730, I think it is, or 370. There's this fake idea now that the plane has been kidnapped and landed somewhere, and I think that's just bullshit. There'll be huge statistical problems in getting a plane somewhere without it being detected to land. And just think of just the resources you would need to feed over 200 people for 10 days. Where are they going to have all that food? They're obviously not, if they've kidnapped these people for some reason, they're not going to starve them to death. 10 days with no or little food and water? No, that's just impossible. It just doesn't add up. Where could you possibly put a plane down with over 200 people and all the people on the ground that you would need to guard that 200 people? All the food, water, housing. I mean, where are you going to find something like that? I just can't believe it. It's, nobody's talking about this, but people need to shit and piss, they need to eat and drink, they need shelter, you need guards for them. I just can't see it being possible. It is so unlikely, it's impossible, for that plane to have been taken somewhere and these people to have been, held captive somewhere. And the problem with that is as well, it has to come down under the 10,000 foot mark where, your mobile phones and stuff don't work. 200 and odd people, you're going to search every one of them on the plane before you get. How many people did they have on the plane to capture this plane? Is like 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 the people on board, part of the conspiracy to capture this plane and land it somewhere? Did they go through everybody's pockets and all the chair seats and all the hidden places somebody could have swapped their mobile phone to use it when the plane landed? And yet not a single message was sent from this airplane. I think more and more it's sounding like these blips and beeps that they're getting aren't the plane at all. They could just be other electronic anomalies, or this plane did suffer some kind of catastrophic loss of the internal pressure, and the people were all unconscious and therefore couldn't use their mobile phones to send messages when they realised something was happening. I'm sure some people in the plane, as soon as it started turning and started going in a weird direction, would probably have got on their phones and tweeted and twitched and stuff, emailed people, tried to phone their loved ones to say that something's going wrong, So I don't see how they can possibly think this plane actually was flying for 7.5 hours with somebody actually in control. More likely the pilots, when something went wrong, tried to take control of the plane, and the automatic plane thing jumped in, the automatic flight controls took over, and because they turned or changed dials in a state of fugue, maybe try to redirect it back to the mainland to try and find a place to land, and the plane just, when they were unconscious, just flew right past the mainland of Malaysia and out into the Indian Ocean. A plane that size, when it hit the water, would leave debris, but 10 days later that debris would be scattered miles and miles wide, and probably in some place that they haven't already searched yet. I believe the plane has went down in the Indian Ocean somewhere. And I think it's going to be a long time before we discover what actually happened, if we ever do. It's quite possible that debris was scattered and become sodden and sunk. If there was any floating debris, eventually the bodies would sink as well. Perhaps some of them might wash up somewhere, maybe in a year's time you find something, but at the moment I think the plane went down in the Indian Ocean. I think we'll never really know exactly what happened to them, and I think this is what's worrying Boeing and the American government, because that could actually impinge upon their future sales of this airplane if they can't account for what happened. And Malaysia is now trying to blame the pilot, saying he was a dissident, a radical, when there's no real evidence for that, apart from he was politically aligned with the people in power in Malaysia's opposition. But all accounts to date, that opposition aren't terrorists and radical. They actually try to use the democratic system to take power. But Boeing must be very worried, because this could impact upon people who were planning to buy Boeing 777s, in future years, from actually buying them, and may go to one of their competitors. So it could be lost revenue for them in the future, which is probably more worrying to them than the 200 odd people that were on the aeroplane. I don't think Boeing gives a shit about that. They want to know what happened to their aeroplane, because it's going to impinge on their profits. And that affects America as well, because if they lose sales, then they might have to lay people off in 2 or 3 years, because it takes I think 8 to 18 months to build these planes. So they might have orders in now for the next 2 years, but it's the future orders, 2 or 3 years down the line. They might have to cut back in their production if they don't have sales. And that's the worrying thing for the American government, for the Boeing agency, and the people who have lost loved ones. We may try and have hope, but that plane couldn't possibly still be flying today. It might not even have been flying for the 7.5 hours that they say it was. And the idea that it's been kidnapped and landed somewhere, again, how do you feed and house these people and guard them? That's a huge amount of resources you would have to put into that, besides building an airstrip somewhere in the wilderness and hiding the aeroplanes so that overhead satellites going over don't see and picture it. Gigantic problems going down that route, and I think it's stupid for the newscasters to be even talking about that. Anyway, that's my take on the problem with the 777 disappearing at the moment. I think what we can look at it really is that the plane is lost at sea somewhere. Seems to me that the most rational idea, and they just need to try and cover a larger area faster in order to try and get there before the debris disperses and sinks faster than they can see it. Anyway, cheers guys.